What's good, guys? I'm gonna be giving you guys three winners of the NBA draft. We're gonna be covering it in this video. We're gonna cover both rounds for round one, round two. I'm gonna give you guys three teams that I think won this draft. And yeah, let's just kind of jump right into it. The first team we have here is Charlotte. The Hornets, they pretty much came up and drafted a freshman. He's 20 years old, but he's a freshman and he led college basketball in rebounding. Um, just an absolute stud for Washington. It's Hannes Steinbach. He was averaging 18 and a half and 11.8 rebounds per game. It's just kind of insane. The numbers he was putting up. For Charlotte to get him here was, I think, just key because, it was almost out of the lottery. He came in at 14, and if you kind of look at like the talent after that, a lot of the younger talent was kind of taken, like a lot of freshman talent, right? You know, he was kind of the last player to, be on the board. I thought he was going to get taken higher. I thought 14 was really low for Hannes Steinbach. Again, the numbers he was putting up last season was insane. It's not showing it here, but it's a number one here for leading college basketball in rebounds, a 75% free throw shooter, and he can knock down a three too at 6'10", So, his game is just it's just very likely just gonna keep getting better, right? He averaged 57% from the field. Absolutely a big win for Charlotte just with this pick alone. And yeah, and also they went ahead and got Christian Anderson. Christian Anderson is just a proven college basketball player. I think he went really low because, of his size, but, his numbers are undeniable, right? He was putting up almost 19 points a game, shooting 42% from deep, you know, pretty well from the field too, almost at that 50%. And, Texas Tech was injured at the end of the year, right, with the JT Toppin injury. So, their season kind of, got thrown up in the air right after that happened. But, this team was, in terms of KenPom offense, they still finished in the top 15 KenPom offense rankings, and top 35 defensively. Christian Anderson was a big factor in all that, obviously, right? Playing almost 40 minutes a game, 38 minutes. Like he was not taking any rest. And yeah, again, Texas Tech, the year before, his freshman year when Darian Williams was injured, they went to the Elite Eight, and he was a big reason why. If let's kind of look at his numbers in terms of his March Madness games. This was his freshman year, but look at the minutes he was putting up. 44 minutes against an OT win against Arkansas, right? As a freshman, 38 minutes, right? These are big games. He had offensively, these games, he didn't do great in terms of offensive numbers, but they're winning the game. So, he's a big reason why. And then they did lose by only a few points to Florida in that game. And again, Christian Anderson playing a big role in that Elite Eight game against Florida. Um, yeah, this is just a very great pickup by Charlotte on top of the Hannes Steinbach pick. And they got Christian Anderson at 18. Yeah, I mean, the numbers, are kind of undeniable here. So, I thought Charlotte was our first winner here in our picks. Our second winner is Cleveland. Cleveland did come in the second round, and they went ahead and got, a pick who I thought, definitely should have been a first round pick is Malik Thomas. Um, for Cleveland to get him at 34, this is a great pickup. A young guard to pair with, Donovan Mitchell, um, and James Harden, no doubt. These guys are gonna, they need him, right? Like we saw Cleveland just kind of got, they had to go through two game sevens against, the first two rounds of the playoffs, and they're losing the Eastern Conference Finals. They need more, scoring depth, right? To pair along with Harden, and Mitchell, right? And this is a huge add. Malik Thomas was shooting 41% from deep, 15 points a game. He's coming from a Calipari offense. Everyone knows that. And in terms of Arkansas in general, obviously had Acuff Jr., but Arkansas was top five KenPom offense, top seven, right, most of the season. That is elite. These are because of freshmen. If we look at Arkansas the year before those two guys arrived, like we'll just like I remember covering this before. Arkansas was literally 64th in terms of Ken Palm offense the year before Acuff Jr. and Malik Thomas arrived. Fast forward when they do get there, right? Now they're a top 10 offense. So, this is a huge, huge win, I think, for Cleveland as a second round pick. That's a come up. And again, if we look at, I just, you just NBA comparisons, whatever, right? Tyler Hero, Rip Hamilton, Jordan Clarkson, that's a scoring guard. That's definitely something that Cleveland, will pair with the guys that they already have. And they have, the big men already, right? Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, right? They have guys like Max Strus, Sam Merrill. And yeah, this just, again, adds to, their guard depth and guard scoring, something where that I think they really need that. It's a deep. It's getting the Eastern Conference is getting more difficult. And yeah, this is just a great pickup, I think, for Cleveland as a second round pick, no doubt. And last, I think this is kind of undeniable. I think a lot of people, are gonna agree. The Sacramento Kings, this is arguably the team that had the best draft. And obviously it starts with Acuff Jr. If you look at the numbers he's putting up, like you don't see this by any literally I haven't seen this by any like Calipari guard to put up numbers like this. 44% from three. He's making 2.5 a game again as a freshman, 23 points a game, 24 points a game, almost 50% from the field, free throw 80%. I mean, 6.4 assists, right? He does everything. He was the third leading scorer in college basketball. And, if we talk about the Ken Palm numbers here, again, we saw how Arkansas was before Acuff Jr. got there, right? Malik Thomas. They were outside the top 60 in terms of Ken Palm offense. And then when they arrive, now they're a top 10 offense. Yeah, I think that's pretty undeniable. Um, Defensively, definitely, that team could have done a lot better, but, offensively, it's undeniable. And that's just obviously that's the biggest part of Sacramento's win here. He's 19 years old. It's insane. They also got Alex Caravan and Emmanuel Sharp. So these two guys, I think Alex Caravan was a part of the greatest college basketball team I've ever seen. With that 2024 UConn team, and we see how other players that in that starting lineup are doing in the NBA, right? We look at Donovan Clingan, Stephon Castle just in the NBA Finals. Now Alex Caravan is there as a almost a second round pick. Sacramento got him so late. So this is a come up for sure. Defensively, what where he's coming from, obviously. Offensively, 37% from three, just consistency, all throughout his career at UConn, just a consistent player Sacramento's getting for sure. And yeah, part of the greatest college basketball team I've ever seen. So, and Emmanuel Sharp, on top of that, right? This is a guy who's shooting also 37% from deep, almost 90% from the free throw stripe, 15 points a game for an elite defensive Houston team, who, almost won it all 2 years ago. They were the fourth Ken Palm ranked defense last year, 15th offensively, so excellent both ways. And all three of these guys going to the Kings in one draft is, pretty remarkable, I think. If you're a Kings fan, this is yeah, this is huge. Uh, and yeah, that wraps it up for this video. If you guys like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We'll do more. And also, if you guys like, we have on the website collegebasketball.info. Check out our rankings on collegebasketball.info. We have rankings for every conference for next year, post transfer portal. So go ahead and check that out. Leave a comment. But yeah, till next one, y'all. Peace.